So we don't teach our children anything.
Our children cannot read. Our children cannot read.
And you know what happens to children that don't read? They turn into adults who can't read.
Oh, it's true. My son cannot read at age 6.
I'm supposed to know this! I'm supposed to know this shit already! Ah!
Hello everyone and welcome back to Tea with TK.
No!
Most of you may not have heard about the topic today, and for that, I apologize for bringing this topic to you. You can blame my YouTube and TikTok algorithm for that. From the topic today, you know we're talking about unschooling, and I think it's best for me to let the unschooling influencers give you the definition before I jump in.
Unschooling is a term used for families who are homeschooling, but it's even less structured than homeschool. So unschooling is child-led learning. So for instance, my son is obsessed with fire engines because his papa is a firefighter and his uncle is training to become a firefighter. So if we were to do unschooling, we would do like a week or 2 weeks or however long he's obsessed with these fire engines and just learn about fire engines. We would take him to the fire station, we would read up on facts about fire engines and firefighters and just basically do a deep dive on what he's interested in that moment.
So from what she says, this doesn't sound too bad, even though I think you can still teach your child about fire trucks and fire engines after school or during the weekends. But when she uses the word child-led, it brings up some red flags to me because even as an adult, you don't know what you don't know. So we all have unconscious ignorance. That means gaps in a topic or a subject that we don't know exists. Talk less of a child. And like I said, your child can still learn about fire engines or fire truck during weekends or after school. Unschooling and homeschooling are two different terms that should not be interchanged. Homeschooling is a structured form of education where guardians or parents oversee their child's education, often using a curriculum or following specific educational goals. So here, the parents make sure that the child meets all the milestones, either teaching themselves or hiring a tutor. But this is all done outside a formal educational institution. But this process is still regulated by any of the educational bodies in the city or the country where we're talking about. So here we still have lessons and tests, and this works for some people, but it still has its own flaws. Unschooling is a child-led approach to education that emphasizes natural learning through life experiences, interest, and curiosity without relying on a formal curriculum. It can also be called free schooling. To understand unschooling, take everything you know about education or schooling and flip it on its head. So basics like math, writing, reading, all come naturally when the kid is ready. Unschooled children learn what they want, when they want, and this is completely up to them. I'm going to do a small exercise now. Cast your mind back to when you were a kid and be very honest with me. Drop a bean emoji in the comment right now if the only thing you remember when you were a kid was playing. At this point, you may have seen the flaw in this unschooling philosophy. To me, this is the perfect example of the blind leading the blind. Just to let you know that this is my opinion. I have no degree or experience in education, and I cannot tell you how to raise your kids.
So we don't teach our children anything. Everything that they learn is in response to either their interests or their questions. We have no curriculum, we have no school hours. We really just respond whenever they want to know something and do our best to make sure they really get it. And my big fear about free schooling was that if my kids only went towards what they were interested in, saving all of their real estate only for things they're interested in, not cramming it with anything necessary, I was concerned that they would never be interested in things like reading and writing and math. My son's 6, and it took some patience, and not comparing myself to other moms, but this is his book. Look at this. Lamp, egg, jar, lion. This is him doing this by himself, copying down words from other places, asking us more. Same with addition. Mom, what's 7 plus 5? It will come at the right time. But if you do not like this idea of sending your kids away for 40 hours a week and then wondering why they have no energy to do anything else, if you are not into your kids conforming, trust that you can follow their interests and they will learn everything they need to learn, not what other people need them to learn.
You're welcome. So there's a difference between copying down words that you see and knowing what those words spell or what those letters joined together spell. What this child is doing is basically drawing. So it's just like seeing an apple or an iPad and drawing it out. It doesn't mean anything to him. So the mom is seeing those letters and she's able to pull it out together and say, it spells lion, it spells egg. But this only happened because her parents were gracious enough to send her to school. But I promise you anything that her teacher spent weeks and even months just to make her know the alphabets and numbers and what those alphabets sound like, the phonics of those alphabets, to bring it together to make this. But I don't think she remembers that she went through that process because obviously she was a kid during that process. So in her mind, this all the knowledge she has of how to read and the rest came via osmosis, that just appeared and was bestowed upon her at some point in her life. So there's a saying that before you take down a gate, ask what the gate is there for. So before you take your child out from school, make sure you understand the whole education system. So even if it's just in primary school or like the first few years of your child's education, make sure you understand what goes into it. Meaning you should have maybe a degree or experience in teaching your kids or teaching kids in general before you take your child out to put them in this experiment of yours. For me, I don't have any education background or any education degree, and I do not have kids, and I don't have a 6-year-old that I can make reference to. But the people in the comment section are saying and comparing like an average 6-year-old and what an average 6-year-old should be doing at that age. This is such a disservice to the child. Holy hell. This is such a disservice to this child. Holy hell. He should be further than this at 6. And another comment is saying, you are crippling your child. It's fine if you want to keep them ignorant at home forever. Personally, I want better for my kids, okay? Another comment is saying, genuine question, what happens when or if the child wants to go into university for a specific career later on? And that's a very valid question. What happens? And then another is saying, my parents ruined my life doing this. Like, ruined it. I have never been able to catch up. I will never be able to live the life I wanted to live. All for, I don't even know what the idea is behind, like what she's trying to get from this. I don't know. Like, you're just ruining your child's life. And later on in the video, I'm going to show you like real life examples of what this has done to some adults. I think there's a happy medium. I agree public school is overkill, but a 6-year-old should have an hour to sit learning phonics and maths every day to be able to keep up with their peers. So enough with that. Let's move ahead.
Did you know that 21% of adults in the US are illiterate? Way back in the 19th century, 1870, illiteracy was at 20%. So 20% of the adult population in the US could not read or write. Fast forward over 100 years, 1979, illiteracy was down to less than 1%, which is amazing. Fast forward to 2022, adult illiteracy across the US is at 21%. That's more than in 1870. So why? What changed in the last 45 years to make it so drastically the wrong direction? Phonics have been challenged a lot. Like, we've been using phonics for hundreds of years. It did great 1870 to 1979. And they started adding other methods of teaching reading. Most of it is memorizing whole words instead of learning the sounds and being able to decode the words on their own. They can't really read. They just have to know a word they've already memorized, or they have to guess it. So to make sure your child doesn't become a statistic, make sure your child gets phonics, whether it's, very, very simple reading books that they can decode, or just some really great workbooks, or even a teaching manual that shows every single step of phonics. Follow for more teaching tips.
Some of the parents have very valid reasons to want to take their kids out of traditional school, like bullying, gun violence, etc. But I think before you make that decision, you should have enough teaching experience or a teaching degree or education degree so that you can be able to spot the gaps in your child's education and fill in those gaps before it is time for your child to join the general population, either as an entrepreneur or as an employee.
Okay, so I've gotten this question a lot, and I just kind of want to like clear up the air a little bit, or give like just kind of like a general consensus, because I'm still learning and like doing my research as it goes. Unschooling is basically the practice of letting the child's interests lead where they learn and kind of like how they learn, when, you know, the whole 9 yards, right? So in traditional schooling, there's a specific set curriculum and like workbooks and stuff like that. Whereas with unschooling, the sources of learning come from the internet, nature, you know, earth, learning museums, parents, siblings, that kind of thing. In traditional schooling, there is a set time for learning. Like, you know, you go from like 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. and no breaks, right? In unschooling, the learning can happen all day, every day, 365 days a year. There is no like set 7 to 3. So your kids can comfortably learn when they're ready to like accept information. Like they're able to wake up and really use the academic parts of their brain instead of being forced to try and absorb knowledge when they just have woken up maybe 1 or 2 hours prior. Another example is where goals are set by the teacher in a traditional school setting. In unschooling, the goals are actually set by the student on what they want to learn next, because children, whether you realize it or not, they soak up information and they love learning. But if you just give them like a cookie cutter setting to learn, they're not going to really learn like they should if they're not as interested in it. Like I said, I am still learning myself, so I'm still picking up bits and pieces of information on how it all works. But yeah, it definitely intrigues me more as an intuitive parent than it does just sending my kid to school and wondering what they learn each day and having to fight with teachers just to get information on their goddamn curriculums every day. Just one of the ways that I can ensure that, along with the actual information that they need from like school curriculums and stuff like that, they can also learn life skills and important things that even I wasn't taught in school, because the traditional school system, whether you guys want to admit it or not, it definitely fails children nowadays more often than not. So,
And also her saying she's still trying to figure it out, it's just throwing all the red flags to me. And I think it is best for her to go through the either traditional schooling or homeschooling if she really wants to know what the kids are studying every day. I think homeschooling will be better because she already has a set curriculum, so she is still having the time she needs to with her kids, and also teaching the kids so that they can easily, seamlessly join the general population. So for context, I think this creator made a video earlier saying she doesn't understand or she doesn't believe or support the unschooling system. And she got a comment saying, I was unschooled when I was young and turned out all right, I think. Bachelor degree, full-time job, etc. It depends on how you do it, but especially for 1st to 3rd grade, I think it's viable.
I mean it when I say I'm glad it worked out for you. I'm so glad that you found success and it turned out to be okay. But I hate when people say, I did fill in the blank and I turned out all right. Because listen, I could throw an entire pot of spaghetti at the wall and some of it will stick. Most of it will fall off or slide right down the wall, but a few lucky pieces of spaghetti will stick to the wall. You are lucky spaghetti. But I'm not looking at the lucky spaghetti that's still stuck to the wall. I'm looking at the pile of spaghetti on the ground that somebody's going to have to pick up, or it's going to stay there forever. There will always be lucky spaghetti for any number of circumstances. But that pile of spaghetti on the ground is going to spend its entire life trying to get back up on the wall. And that's what I'm concerned with.
I think this creator, the commenter, turned out well despite or in spite of the situation he or she found themselves in. I'm happy you were able to come out and join the general population seamlessly. But as she said, there are so many of them that were unschooled that were not able to join the general population when it was time. So let's see some examples of what the kids are learning while being unschooled.
So unschooling isn't no education, it's education in response to a kid's interests, and small children have a lot of them. We've had to arrange a lot of things in our business to make sure that we can accommodate the answering of these questions. So we got a cool little moment when I was on the phone with my web designer and Wiley asked me a question I thought I would share with you so you could learn more about what unschooling means in a family business. And then there'll be plugs for the different versions of the audiobook, the book, etc. Something that's... What? Oh, etc. means I could go on and on about this thing. So if I say a rainbow has yellow, blue, red, pink, green, all of the different... Yeah. I mean, I guess rainbows don't have pink. But if I said rainbows have all the colors like red, blue, etc. That red, blue, yellow, green. But instead of saying blue and violet. Exactly. So if I didn't want to say all of the colors, but you and I both knew kind of where the conversation was going, we could say it has red, blue, etc., and you would know to fill the rest of the questions in. Does that answer your question? I think so. Thank you for your question. Thank you for your patience.
Yeah, that was a cute mother and daughter conversation. And the people in the comments are really not happy about some few things that occurred during the video. So let's read the comment and see. My kids go to school and I teach them these things. And then she replied, how wonderful for them and how wonderful for you. Do you have a job that you go to in the week? I'm not sure what point she was trying to make there, but other comments, this is not unschooling, this is a conversation. What if they never ask about ocean currents or why apple seeds don't grow trees? Do they just never find out? And another person, this is very salty. She said, pronouncing the words wrong doesn't really define it and lists pink as a rainbow color. This is what unschooling means. Got it. Another comment is, so do these kids learn to read and write? Let's answer that question.
Oh, it's true. My son cannot read at age 6. There's never going to be a time in my life where I can say, yeah, my son started reading when he was 5 years old. He's on the Waldorf and Montessori schedule. It's different. But here's the thing about my kid. He's free. He's always been free. And every single day of his life is a blank canvas that he can make whatever art he wants with. Discovery, adventure, art, play, interest. This is what his day is made up of. There's no conformity. There's no needing to pretend that you're sick in order to get a day off. There's no trends. There's no ahead or behind. There's just being free, exactly the way that you are, free to learn at your own pace. And there are so many inmates that will know so much more than me. Inmates get law degrees, get all kinds of stuff. And there's so many inmates that will say, look, this is just the way that it is. This has been a really good thing for me. Everybody else is doing it. We don't live in a creative world. This is just what it is. But would any of those inmates not trade in all of these things they've gotten used to for a chance at being free, for a chance to feel the sun on their face every single day? That's what all of this is about. Thank you.
Taking you back to the video earlier where she was teaching her child the rainbow and the context of using etc. and everything. I think what stuck out to me the most in that video was how fast she was to shush the child. I know kids can always jump into your conversation, especially when you're having a serious conversation with an adult. But she made the rule of unschooling, which is allowing your child's curiosity to lead the way in teaching the child. The child asking the question at any time, you should be able to answer the question at any time without shushing the child. So it looks like she is setting the rules for herself for the game and also failing at the game, because the child asking the question, she was so fast to shush the child, and I don't know if the child is actually going to learn anything at this rate. So now we're moving to Kelsey Ray. She was the one that made this unschooling thing go viral, or free schooling thing go viral. So she made a video earlier, and then she got this comment. My neighbor did unschooling with her children, and it was very sad to see, even as teenagers, they could not read. So here is her comment to her response to that comment.
My neighbor did unschooling with her children, and it was very sad to see, even as teenagers, they could not read. You want to know what I'm tired of fucking seeing? I am so tired of seeing these grown people who are unschooled or homeschooled, or even just, people who have never tried it, saying how bad it is and how uneducated. You want to know the real reason of why people who had a really bad unschooling or homeschooling experience is that they had lazy parents. When you do unschooling, it is 100% up to the parent to be proactive with things and teaching them things, not just letting them sit in front of the
So we'll pause this here, and I want you to watch this video I'm about to show you.
What in the fuck? I just got a message from my son's teacher. He's in first grade. He's 7 years old. And I got a message from her stating that if he misses 10 consecutive days, then he will be automatically withdrawn from the school. I have never heard this in my life. Furthermore, there was a cop who had showed up to my bonus baby's grandparents' house because they missed school for like 3 or 4 days out of the week or whatever.
So for someone that is struggling to take the child to school every morning, or to pick up the phone and call the school to let them know why your child can't come to school, if you're struggling with that, then I'm scared that your child may end up like those teenagers in the previous video that cannot read or write that you were just talking about. To educate a child is much more work than picking up the phone to call your school or your child's school, or taking the child to school. Yeah, it's more work than that. So I'm hoping your child doesn't fall into the category of having lazy parents. If you're still here, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. And if you enjoyed this particular video, share it with your friend. So I went a bit off track. This is another example of what the kids learn when they are being unschooled.
Day one of unschooling, and I've got my kids helping me to clean the car out, teaching them hard work, taking care of the things that you love, that you need, and also just needed the car cleaned. Also teaching them how to follow instructions. Now they're going to go grocery shopping with me, and we're going to learn about reading labels. We're going to learn about math and money and spending your money wisely. When you're buying groceries, you need to make sure that the quality of it is good. So turn it over on each one, make sure that there's no molded ones, make sure they all look pretty good. And if they do, put them in their buggy. So far we got 2 bags of yellow potatoes. We make homemade french fries. We have bananas, 2 things of grapes, 3 things of blueberries, 2 things of strawberries. You see the prices on them right here? You typically want to make sure that you pick the lowest price, and if it's a low price and it looks like it's a good apple, like Honeycrisp.
How would the kid be able to compare prices? I'm seeing here same pounds, $2.69. And how would the kid be able to compare the prices if he does not know numbers? How is that going to happen? The kid is not learning anything here. You're just pointing at things. He's not learning anything.
It's a good apple, like Honeycrisp are good apples. We can get a bag of those. So we're gonna get a whole pineapple, because if we get a cut one, it's more expensive. It's cheaper to just get one yourself and cut it. Make sure that you open them, make sure they're not broken. All good. All right, so when you're reading the labels, I want you to just notice where it says includes added sugars. How many does that say? 0 on that one and 15 on, so we don't want sugars, right?
So this that just happened here, she didn't even give the child enough time to read the 0. Like, right now she does not know if the kid knows 0 as a number, or if he does not. If he does not, which is really fine, because at least you know your kid does not know it, and then you can teach the child that in another instance or another situation that comes naturally. So she did not allow the child to even read the number. She was like, oh, 0 here and this, and we don't want sugars and blah 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 blah. The kid did not learn anything.
So we don't want sugars, right? So you're gonna get that one, okay? And the whole point of this is that I have so much more time with them to teach them things like this that's gonna actually help them in life. Like, actually help them in life. So if you're not a hater, double tap the screen. And
unschooling is not new. There was a trend of unschooling that happened some years ago. For this particular parents we're talking about today, they are still in the middle of their experiments, but results are in for other parents.
Our children cannot read. Our children
cannot read.
And you know what happens to children that don't read? They turn into adults who can't read.
So I was unschooled. I don't support unschooling, and I've gotten hate from parents who unschool their kids for not supporting it. Here's the thing though, I was unschooled, and you probably weren't. So here's why I don't support it. As a kid, I spent my childhood learning to play chess, circuit boards, knit, fun stuff like that. But I didn't want to learn to read, and I didn't want to learn to do math because that was boring. So in the rules of the philosophy, my mom didn't make me. So by the time I hit middle school, all the other kids were making fun of me for not knowing how to read. My mom signed me up for a junior high literature class in my homeschool group, and I didn't know how to do anything. To prepare for the class, I had to teach myself how to read because my mom wouldn't. I did this by watching YouTube videos and figuring out that they were saying the name of the video in the video and then figuring out what the words were. For high school, I decided to go to public school because I was not getting the education I deserved. And guess what? I immediately started failing. I didn't have the years of prior education building me up to prepare me for the level of work I had. I was kicked out before I got to graduate.
The whole interview was about the dangers of unschooling as a person.
So I usually don't respond to things, but I'm getting more bold about stating my opinion and sharing my story. And as someone that was homeschooled, borderline unschooled, I cannot tell you how difficult life was to adjust to once I did join society. My parents definitely thought they were doing the right thing, but they left my sister and I a lot to our own devices when it came to school. After about 4th grade for me on, and when I finally decided I wanted to go to college, I had to get a GED, which at the time automatically disqualified me for a lot of scholarships because I didn't have a high school diploma. I had a GED. And then on top of that, socially, it was rough. It was really rough. I had a really hard time with the general education classes and had to get tutors for almost every single class except for reading and comprehension. Thank God. That's the only thing I managed to excel at. And it was probably just because I spent so much time on my own reading as a kid. But it was horrible. It was awful. It was so traumatic as an 18-year-old, 19-year-old going to college thinking, oh, I'm going to be okay, and absolutely just realizing I knew nothing and I was going to flunk out of college. And I had to work really, really hard to get back into a moderate level of really easy general ed classes.
So these parents are just setting their kids up for failure. Like, it's like running a marathon and every other person is halfway to the finish line and you are just starting. You have a lot of catching up to do. So some of us went to even normal school, we're still struggling academically. Talk less of if you didn't even learn the basics. I can imagine it would have been very brutal for these people.
I'm sorry. I'm learning how to read, y'all. It's either this or I turn off the camera and just be angry and don't learn. Because regardless, this is why people give up. When you see an adult and they be like, why you never learn? Like, because this is what they would have to go through. I don't know if they'll go through it like me, but I'm going to tell you something. If you don't know how to read and you're an adult and you're going to start learning how to read, you will not get through this without any vulnerability, bro. Like, you don't. Ah! I'm supposed to know this! I'm supposed to know this shit already! Ah! Stay up, baby. Don't give up. Ah! Let's go, baby! Let's go. Let's go. You learning, yo. You learning how to read. You learning. That's what it is. Let's go. Let's go. And so Wilbur came home to visit beloved manor pal in the barn cellar. His was a strange homecoming. Around his neck he wore a medal of honor. In his mouth he held a sack of spider eggs. They're supposed to know this stuff, yo. I'm supposed to already know how to read. I'm supposed to get this. Let's go. I need it, baby. I need it all. Let's go. Let's go. You breathing. Let's read. Let's go. Let's go. His was strange homecoming. Around his neck, he had a sack spider egg. There is no place like home, Wilbur thought, as he placed Charlotte's 540 unborn children carefully in a safe corner. The barn smelled good. His favorite friends, the sheep and the geese, were glad to see him back. I gotta heal, y'all. Like, if I don't go through this, I'll never learn how to read. Like, I gotta fight my fears. I gotta fight my emotions. They don't own me. I own them. Geese were glad to see him back. The geese gave him a nose.
Congratulations, you made it to the end. Thank you so much for being here. I really, really appreciate you spending this time with me. Please drop in the comment section any thoughts and comments you have about unschooling. Is this the first time you're hearing about it? And if it is, I'm so sorry that I had to be the one to bring you this information. And I have a goal to reach 1,000 subscribers by the first quarter of next year. If you enjoyed this video, please share with your friends, do all the things, the subscribing, the share, the likes, everything to help me reach that goal. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next one.